I don't want to take too much of your time. Just want to get to the meat and potatoes things as we're looking at what's happening in the world. And to some people, this is new. This is causing anxiety for them. To some people, this is just another day. You know, trying to figure out what took everyone else so long to catch up to what was happening. Before I start this, I want to comment about something someone said to me in regards to my logo. As you can see, it ain't too fun when the rabbit got the gun. Some people think I'm actually talking about a weapon, but if you pay attention, you see the camera. And the gun is two things in this. It's the camera, but it's also knowledge, and the knowledge of your rights. And if we're expecting the same people that hurt us, abuse us, oppress us to come and save us, you have problems. So you have to know how to rescue and save yourself and your lineage and your friends and your neighborhood. And how do you do this? You do this by knowing the law. You do this by practicing. You do this by exercising your rights. I'm not an attorney. If you need an attorney, you should get an attorney because I'm not an attorney. I'm an American. I'm an American who exercises their limited freedom. And, one of the things I want to talk about is hate crimes. You know, so many people constantly tell me that things have gotten so much better in America that they don't see all of these problems. They don't see all of this. Where are the statistics? That's always what they'll say. Where are the statistics that support your view, that support this evidence? And that's always a great comeback. But we're going to change that narrative today. And I ask that you forward this to your friends and your family so they understand, because eventually it's going to happen to you. It's If you're black and you're a male, it's already happened to you. And how officers that are black can sit there and act, because that's what it is. It's an act. And act like people aren't being racist to black people, that cops wearing uniforms aren't being racist to blacks, especially in poor neighborhoods, or with dreads, or with pants sagging, or with big rims, or because they're in an area they don't quote unquote belong. Come on, we're better than this. And just because you join that gang, that blue line, blue wall gang, you're forgetting where you came from. And I'm not calling you bad officers, but you have a responsibility to the community. And so I'm not going to preach and talk about all that. We're going to get to the meat and potatoes, because I do love me some meat and potatoes. People are abusing your rights right now. And I'm talking to people in protected classes. And I'll explain to you what protected classes I'm referring to, because this isn't about black or white, brown, yellow, green. This is about civil rights. I'm a civil rights activist. DFW Accountability News is here for the people, not black people, not white people, not brown people, for the people. Because if we do not unite, all of us are going to be in, we're going to see problems we don't really want. I said 2 years ago that a civil war was coming, and people laughed at me, thought I was crazy. That's what people think. But it only makes sense. It only makes sense that a civil war is going to happen. So, this is only for hate crimes. Stop going to your local police department and complaining about hate crimes. Do not do it any longer. Stop it. There's another big gun in town, a bigger gun, because it has already been confirmed that your police department is corrupt. And that's not my thoughts. That's not my thinking. That's not my assumption. That's the FBI's. That's the FBI. The FBI they knew that you cannot count on the local police department to come to the aid and the rescue to protect an individual's civil rights. Because what happens if the police department, your local police department, are a bunch of racists? What if you live in a small town and you got your good old boy system going on there? Who's going to help you? Who's going to help you? You're going to go to your local police department, that even if they have an internal affairs department, guess what? Those are all boys. Those are drinking buddies. Those boys work together. They're not about to help you. They're definitely not going to cross that blue line for you. So this isn't me bashing the police. This is me bashing the bad police that put in these bad policies that don't want to help the citizens. So since you don't want to help the citizen, allow DFW Accountability News to assist the citizen. So the first thing I'll tell you is stop going to your local police department. As I've stated, contact the FBI. And you can see here, this is the link to the FBI page to let you know that everything is straight with what I'm telling you. So you can go there yourself and watch. But here's what you want to look at. You want to look at under the tab Civil Rights and Hate Crimes. Okay, here it's going to tell you that the FBI investigates hundreds of these cases every year. Hundreds. Why not thousands? You know why it's not thousands? Because you don't report them. We don't report them to the FBI. The police don't report them to the FBI, and the people with the complaints don't report them to the FBI. But let me tell you the beauty of reporting hate crimes to the FBI. And some of you will want to know, well, what's defined as the hate crime? Trust me, we're going to go over all of that. So, well, if you're not reporting them to the FBI is not going to check them. And the FBI checks everyone that they are told of. They investigate all. So if you want to make things hard for your local police department and something has happened to you, you contact the FBI. They're the outside force that's going to get in. And trust me, local PD does not want the FBI in their business at all. Trust me when I tell you that. But you can see here that traditionally FBI investigations of hate crimes were limited to perpetrators that acted based on a bias against the victim's race, color, religion, or national origin. So those are parts of the protected classes that I was talking to you about. But things change, as you can see with the passage of Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act of 2009, which is when things changed. The Bureau became authorized to also investigate crimes committed against those based on biases of actual or perceived sexual. And I want you to make sure you understand when you see this: actual or perceived sexual orientation, gender identity, disability, or gender. So this right here are the protected classes. Okay? Now, I said that initially when I was talking, I was saying that why contact the FBI? Why can't your local police department be trusted? And I know some of you are probably thinking to yourself, I'm full of it. But okay, and I said the FBI knew it too. So let's go to it and find out if I'm telling the truth on this. History. The FBI had investigated a lot of hate crimes back in the day, especially during the civil rights time when we were trying to get rights. And guess what? The local police department, the good old boy system, they weren't helping. That's right, that blue wall even then to protect one another. And so all of you guys that sit there and you talk about a blue wall, you talk about the code of silence and that thin blue line. This is where a lot of this stems from. You don't snitch on one another. But this is why you don't snitch on one another. It's because you have to protect the bad ones. But as you can see, when some African Americans died, the FBI got involved in it, and they found out that the people in the town weren't helping. So guess what? Out of that, on October the 20th, 7 men were convicted of conspiring to violate the constitutional rights of the slain civil rights workers. All 7 were sentenced to prison terms ranging from 3 to 10 years. And make no mistake about it. You hear a lot of people talk about, well, there's a difference between state time, your local jail time, and Fed time. No one wants to do Fed time. Okay? And I want to make sure I keep this kind of short so you guys can come read this on your own. So they're defining a hate crime. And a hate crime is a traditional offense like murder, arson, or vandalism with an added element of bias. For the purposes of collecting statistics, the FBI has defined a hate crime as a criminal offense against a person or property motivated in whole or in part by an offender's bias against a race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, or gender identity. Hate itself is not a crime. So if I hate my neighbor and I just don't like him, and he happened to be Puerto Rican or whatever, that's not a crime. I can hate him all I want. But the moment I start throwing in those racial disparities in there, then that is the problem. Okay? And you may have read this first sentence and you're like, man, I had some hate crime against me, but it wasn't murder or arson or vandalism. Okay? That's the one thing about it. They're not telling you what all the things are they prosecute here. But don't worry, I'm going to tell you. And you can see here, so you can come back and read this for yourself in regards to the FBI's role. Okay? But this is this other part I want to show you. Hate crimes case examples. So now you get to see more. And once again, make sure you go to this link. And I'll put the links in the description as well. Make it easier. But I just want you to see on screen that, I'm not making this stuff up. So you can see here in Puerto Rico, gender identity. Hate crimes charged in connection with the shooting death of 2 transgender individuals during an alleged carjacking. I want to say it again. The police are not going to go to the FBI to tell them this. You have to tell them. Your family has to tell them. Your family has to get involved with it and open the investigation. Florida. Man pleads guilty to racially motivated election interference and cyber stalking. Massachusetts. Man charged with attempted arson at a Jewish-sponsored assisted living facility. Man charged with internet threats. Yeah. When people are throwing those N-words around or telling you what they want to do to you, and even if you think they're trolling and you think it's nothing you can do about it, contact the FBI. It's not your job to be the police, and you can't go. And that's what happens to a lot of people. They feel helpless. But the government is here. It's just like what my dad used to tell me. You ever want to hide information on how to become rich, how to become powerful? You know the best place to hide that? It's in a book. Because people don't want to read. And the same way with the FBI, if you have if you're having a problem, you contact them. People assault you, and it's based out of hate. Contact the FBI. You can see here, man convicted of hate crime, assaults in Maine. Arrest in 4 states of racially motivated violent extremists targeting journalists and activists. That's all the First Amendment auditors that run into these problems with these cowards. You don't have to worry about it. The police department picks on you. The police department do those things for you and picks you out, and they try to take away your civil rights. And you feel like, hey, they're doing this because of your race. Contact the FBI. Playtime is over. If we want this thing better, we have to contact the FBI. Here are the places, because you have to go to a field office. There is no FBI.gov at Jackson State or whatever.com. You have to find out what your local field office is and go there and file your complaint. Make a phone call. Follow up. Make sure you have your documentation. For those of you who live in Dallas, because once again, this is DFW Accountability News, you can see Dallas, One Justice Way, Denver, no matter where you are, come to this site. And once again, I'll make sure I put the extension. I'll put the link in the description. Houston, Honolulu, El Paso. So all of this to say, you're not helpless. You're not alone. Now you know how to fight back. You do not fight with your fist. You do not fight words with words. You do not fight and get mad at the police to where you're losing your temper. You remember the power you have is the knowledge you have. And as I always love to tell people, it ain't too fun when the rabbit's got the gun. Your rights, use them or lose them.